Go on live, and we're gonna wait a second.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. This is me, LB, and I am here. We're finally here. This is the Sit Down with LB. Thank you all for joining this Facebook Live series. This is something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while, and I tell people all the time that I'm approached by young black singers or singers in general who ask me sometimes, how is it to be a black person in this business? And so I tell people all the time that I don't have all the answers, but I think it's important to really pay it forward and to share what information that I do know. And so, as I said yesterday when I made a small video, I said that I have enlisted the help and services of my colleagues, people that I admire and respect, people that have had success in this business. And so I am happy to be joined this evening by a fantastic, fantastic singer who I met a few years ago. I had heard about her before I met her. But I actually met her in Wales at Cardiff Singer of the World. I don't know if she even remembers that, but I remember saying, "Wow, she is really, really, really nice." And so it's been great for me to meet her, and it's one of these things that I'm excited that she is here with me today. So let me introduce all of you. You all know her, but this is the fantastic Angel Blue. Hello, Angel.
Hi, Larry. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me on your first show, The Sit Down. This is awesome.
Well, I had to do it big, so you know.
Thank you.
Where are you? Where are you in the world right now?
Right now, I am in New Jersey. I'm in close to Alpine area of New Jersey,
And
North
that's where you live, yeah?
North Jersey. Yeah, that's where I live. I'm from California, but I live in New Jersey. Yeah.
Yes. So I've read that you're from LA. So how much different is it from being from Los Angeles and now living in New Jersey?
Well, the thing is, I'm actually I say Los Angeles, but I'm actually from a really small town called Apple Valley. And,
Okay.
but I would say the difference is where I grew up. Apple Valley is the desert. It's called the high desert of California. The biggest difference is that everything where I'm from is there's dirt everywhere. It's the desert. And here, I was actually just telling my husband the other day. I was like, "Gosh, it's so green and it's so beautiful." That's the biggest difference. That and the fact that I think that there's just constantly a lot of culture things happening over here, a lot of shows. Well, I mean, of course, not now, but when things were normal, there were a
Yeah.
lot of shows and things happening. But I
You
love New
mean
Jersey. I love New Jersey. I'm working hard to become a Jersey girl. I'm working real hard on that.
so you didn't grow up in the shadow of the Hollywood sign?
No, I did not. I did not grow up in like in that way, but I mean, I guess I couldn't say that I grew up in Los Angeles because I went to high school there. I also went to college there. I was in the LA Opera Young Artist Program. So I mean, LA is also home. Southern California is one of those places where you kind of I feel for myself like I kind of grew up all over Southern California. There's a little bit of my heart that's in San Diego, a little bit of my heart that's in Orange County, a little bit that's in LA County, and a whole lot that's in San Bernardino County. So LA will always be home. But I'm working hard to be a Jersey girl.
Okay, here's a question for you. I guess this is my first. Well, I've asked you a few things already, but here's one of my first questions. Growing up in LA, that's the town of, a lot of pop music, also Hollywood, films and sitcoms, TV.
Yeah.
Did you ever have that desire before you started pursuing a career in opera?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I think that most people or most artists are inspired or excited to at least try their acting skills and such. I guess, when I was probably in high school and the earlier stages of college, I would say were the time that I really tried to sort of see where I was with acting. But
Okay.
because of my aspirations to be an opera singer, I did take a lot of acting classes,
In high school?
high school and college, actually. In
Okay.
fact, my last acting class that I took was just in 2017. I drove out to Hollywood to take some classes, just some improv classes, just to sort of keep my mind going as far as the stagecraft is concerned. But my heart has always really been in the opera world for sure.
So let me ask you this: when was your first in operatic encounter, if I can ask you that?
My first happened when I was 4 years old. That I have a memory
Okay.
of. I was four.
Okay, and what was that like? Was it just like you saw Miss Piggy on TV, or did you have a grandmother? You know how we have these grandmothers who used to play the Victrolas of Marian Anderson or Linton Price or some of those other people. What was your how was that? What was that experience?
Well, mine was my dad. My father. His name is Sylvester Blue. He's passed away, but I still talk about him like he's here. He's very much alive in my heart. And my dad was an opera singer, and he studied classical music. So for me, my earliest encounter of opera is really listening to him sing. He was a baritone. I remember hearing him walk around the house singing the coloratura section of The Trumpet Shall Sound. But when I was 4 years old, my parents took me to see Turandot in Cleveland, Ohio. We were visiting my grandmother, and I saw, I believe it was a concert version of Turandot at Severance Hall. And that was the beginning of my love for opera.
Oh my gosh! And do you remember being captivated, or was it one of these things that you thought, "Oh, this is so cool"? Did you think at 4 years old you were like, "I want to be an opera singer"?
Oh, I was completely captivated. I mean, what I liked about it was I'm an emotional person. I'm very in tune with how I'm feeling at any given moment. Sometimes I have a reason for why I feel the way I do, and then other times I'm overreacting. And but for sure, when I was 4 years old, what I remember to this day is the brass. I remember the brass section, and of course I didn't know it was the brass then. I was just telling my mom and my dad, I was like, "This is really loud. It's really loud." And my dad was like, "Yeah, that's the trumpets. Yeah, that's the trombones." But I just remember feeling so many different emotions at 4 years old. I very vividly remember the woman in the light. I don't know her name to this day. I asked my mom a couple years ago. I was like, "Do you have the program by any chance?" And she said, "No, Angel, I don't have the program. That was back in the late '80s. No, I don't have the program." But I remember seeing the lady in the light, and I just remember being captivated by that and wanting to be that lady in that light. So
Did you know about opera companies outside of where you were in that time? Was it like, okay, my mom and dad, since your dad sang, was he like telling you about all the various opera houses around the world, or did you just know that one place?
I only knew that place. At that time, I only knew at 4 years old, I'd say from like 4 or 5 years old, I really only knew about Severance Hall because my dad was in the chorus at one point at Severance Hall. When we were in California, I'd say I was probably around 8 or 9 years old, a little bit older, when I started hearing things about like the Los Angeles Philharmonic,
Okay.
what's the New York Philharmonic. But when I was young, opera for me belonged in Ohio because that's where I saw it.
Well, I'm from the great state of Ohio, right?
Yes, I
I'm a
do.
very, very proud Buckeye. So, yay, yay, yay for Ohio. Okay, let me ask you this. So you said you had this early introduction to opera, and your dad saying, when you knew you wanted, was it at what age was it that you said, okay, I want to pursue this? As far as like singing opera, did you start taking lessons at a certain age?
I was 6 years old when I took my first voice lesson.
Wow.
And I was 8 years old when I sang my first solo. I was 10 years old when I did my first competition.
Oh my gosh.
My dad, I was raised listening to Simon Estes, Leontine Price, Mary
Okay.
and Jesse Norman. My sister and I we were just talking about this the other day. My sister Heather and I were talking about how we used to pretend I was always Kathleen Battle and she was Jesse Norman. And we would play the spirituals concert on VHS. You put it into the video recorder and you push rewind, and we would always do "He's Got the Whole World in His Hands."
Oh.
At the end of that, when everybody started applauding, my sister Heather and I would take each other's hands and we bow. I don't know. I've always wanted to sing opera. It's
Oh
always.
my gosh. So you're one of how many kids?
I'm one of five.
Five. I'm
Five.
one of six.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
you come from a big family. Which one are you? Number one, two, three,
I'm four.
four. Okay.
Four.
Any brothers older?
A baby brother at the very end, and he is just about to finish up his first year serving in the United States Army. We are very proud of him.
Oh, thank you for your
Tomorrow,
service, sir.
yes, absolutely. Tomorrow we'll be celebrating James Blue, Sylvester James Blue II. Yes.
So did you have to sing at home with your family? Was it a musical group? I mean, did you do like my family? Again, I said I'm one of six, and my dad used to force us. Okay, I say force us to sing when we were kids, and I hated singing. People don't believe that, but I was not a big fan of singing. Did you love singing at that? You loved singing at that early age, and did you all sing in a family?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, I liked singing. I liked being in front of people. That's always been fun to me. I don't know why.
So
I
that came naturally.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed being sort of the center of attention. But my dad was a pastor, so we ministered
Okay.
as the Sylvester Blue. We were actually called the Sylvester Blue Ministries. And
Okay.
in within my dad's ministry, I played the bass guitar. My sister played the harp or the I know you play the bass also. And
You told me you played the bass.
I was gonna bring my bass. I was gonna bring it downstairs, but I realized
Where is it?
I have my amplifier doesn't work. So I was like, oh, he's not gonna
Uh,
hear it.
well, I have mine over there, so we can do our. We're gonna do a duet at some point.
We should do
Angel
that.
Blue and I are going to do a bass
Yes,
duet at some point.
yes. I love
That'll
hearing
be.
you play the bass on Instagram. It's exciting to see
Oh,
so many of our colleagues coming out right now doing all of these things that we never knew that they could do because
oh.
we're all so busy working. But just anyway, but yeah, with my family, we were all musicians of
Do you
some kind.
remember? Do you remember the songs you sang?
Yeah, a lot of
Was
gospel.
it like Andre Crouch, or was it what
Underground.
type of music was it that you sang when you did this? I mean, because I remember all the music of my youth. I mean, I was a big fan of Commissioned, the Winans.
Yeah, the
Of
wine.
course, the Clark sisters were big, but I was really big into choir music. Milton Brunson, and
Wow.
when I got into college, James Hall. I was a huge fan of Kim Burrell. I
Oh,
mean, I was a Take Six. Take Six
fantastic.
really changed my life.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the music I grew up on. What is the music that you guys sang in that group and that really influenced you as a singer?
Well, this might be kind of weird to share, but I'm going to share it because I don't often get to talk about it. I listen to a lot of Andre Crouch. I listen to like James Cleveland and Shirley Caesar.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. My dad was really old school gospel,
Okay.
so we listened to a lot of. I'm trying to think. Mainly, like we would listen to sort of like church music that came from the deep south, like where he was from. My father was born in Praco, Alabama, so we
Okay.
would listen to mainly church choirs from there. But my dad was also a cantor in a synagogue, so we also, I'd also sing songs like the Adon Olam and just, I don't know, a lot of Jewish songs as well. So I feel like I had the best of both worlds. I got a lot of like gospel influence, and then of course I had the classical influence from studying classical music. But then I had this other kind of music that we would do on Friday nights and Saturday mornings when we celebrated Shabbat. So
Oh,
I feel like there's just a lot of a lot of different kinds of music. And he
well, I
also really
mean,
enjoyed the country. So
isn't it interesting? I think we can take parts of all of those things and really enrich what we do on the opera stage. Do you think that?
absolutely, 100%. It makes us who we are as artists and people.
Okay. Here's another question I wanted to ask you. I've heard that you have done pageants,
Yeah.
right? How did you get involved in those?
Oh, that was years ago. I actually did my first pageant around the time that I started singing.
Okay.
That was in I was 7 years old when I did my very first pageant, and I didn't place. I didn't win anything. I got a piece of paper that said thank you for participating, and I felt pretty bad about that. My sister actually did win a prize, and she got a little trophy,
Oh,
and,
wow.
and I felt pretty bad. But I would put pageantry away for about 10 years, and I went back to it when I was 18 years old. And the reason I went back was because my mother said, Angel, you need money for college.
Okay.
And so I thought, oh, okay, well, how do I get that? And
Right.
he said, why don't you do some pageants? There's scholarship money. And so I competed in pageants, and I started when I was 18 and I finished when I was 24, almost 25 years old. And I had a great time in pageantry, but
Oh my gosh.
it helped me get through college for sure.
Well, I imagine being in those pageants, you get a chance to present yourself in front of people,
Yes.
also be scrutinized, also have to be amongst people that are perhaps equally talented and really learn how to survive in a hostile environment. Do you think that your pageant years helped you to with your operatic your career now?
I thought you were actually talking about opera when you were describing pageants, because it's kind of the exact same thing. Really, I find that the pageantry was a way for me to really start to understand that comparison truly is the thief of all joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 5'11" and a half. I dare not say 6 foot, but I'm 5'11" and a half, and my frame is not thin. I was at the time. I worked out about anywhere between 3 to 6 hours a day, depending on what I had to do. I was always in the gym.
Oh,
but at the time, I would always look at other, and I'm going to the question, but I would look at other young ladies and I would think, oh, wow, she's so slim, she's so thin, she can wear a two-piece. And for the first 2 years that I made it to the state level, I wore a one-piece bathing suit because I never felt comfortable in a two-piece.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until my last 2 years competing that I would wear a two-piece. But I would look at other girls and I would be like, wow, she's so beautiful. She has this. Wow, she's a tap dancer. Wow, she's a great opera singer, and what have you. And what I started to learn at a very young age was, don't compare yourself to other people. That is probably the most important thing that I have taken from pageantry into my opera career. And that is because there are people in opera who take off like that. They're 24 years old, right out of a young artist program, and they're singing all over the place. They have a manager, they're winning competitions. And, it's easy to look at that and think, well, what the heck am I doing wrong? How come that's not happening for me or something like that? But I find that with pageants, had I not done them, I don't know that mentality, that idea of comparison being the thief of joy, I don't know that would have stuck so strongly with me today.
But don't you think that probably instilled in you a sense of fight as well? Like, I really want to go after this, and I really feel like I have to put my all into it in order to be successful.
Yeah, but that didn't really come from pageantry for me, though. I think that's a Blue thing. That's a Sylvester and Sylvia Blue thing. I think that fight, that grit, that I get that from my parents. That's definitely something I think. Being the fourth of 5 children, I have three very successful older sisters, and I believe that's a Blue, Connor, Mitchell thing. I think that's my family thing. I'm not so sure that I got that grit from pageantry.
Oh, that's great. Well, I just want to stop in a quick sidebar. I know people are commenting. I hope they are. Right now, the way I'm set up, I'm not getting the comments. So I definitely want to be able to address some of your questions. I know hopefully you guys are watching. Of course, I'm having a great conversation with Angel. Please comment. I acknowledge you. I know you're there, but I just can't see it right now. So some kind of way I will get tapped in to those comments. Okay, let me ask you about the Metropolitan Opera. When was it that you set your sights on singing at the Met Opera?
I was probably about 16 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about 16. I had a voice teacher. I went to a great high school. Just a quick plug for my high school. I went to the Los Angeles County High School for the Arts, and I studied in a program called the Full Circle Opera Project. It was run by a wonderful lady named Stephanie Vlahos. And Stephanie, from the time I was about 15 years old, just started talking about, Angel, you need to go to New York. One day you'll be singing at the Metropolitan Opera. You need to get out of California. Like, she was really adamant with me.
Yeah.
I didn't really start thinking about the Met to my junior year of high school. And that was because I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go for college. And I was thinking, I had my sights so heavily set on the Juilliard School.
Oh.
And I just thought, well, Leontine Price went there. I have to go there too. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I have to. And
right.
So for me, that's when I started noticing what the Metropolitan was, and really taking into account what it meant as an American to sing at this great opera house.
Yeah.
So I was 16 when I first set my sights on the Met.
Why didn't you go to Juilliard, if I may ask?
Well, I didn't get in. I applied twice. I applied twice, thankfully, but I didn't get in. The first time, I would say I didn't get in probably because I just really wasn't ready, and the second time I didn't get in because I really wasn't ready. To be totally honest, it just wasn't for me to go there. But I had a beautiful interaction last year with a lady named Cynthia Hoffman, who is the head of the vocal department there, I believe. If I'm wrong on that, I apologize. But I met her last year And when she introduced herself to me, I was like, why do I know her name? And I was like, that was the name that was on my rejection letter to Juilliard, you know. But she was really lovely and very sweet. And I actually thanked her for not accepting me, because I think that my journey to be where I am today has been the right journey for me.
Yeah. You're not alone because I too was rejected by the Juilliard School.
What?
And I remember thinking, but how our paths lead, I think is interesting because the school I ended up going to was Indiana University. And
I
that for
knew.
me was the right place to be. I wanted to apply for three schools, and Juilliard has this tape round. You have to send a tape in order to be invited for an audition. And so I sent a tape. I wasn't feeling well, but still, I'm not making any excuses. So I was not invited to
Yeah.
audition for the Juilliard School. So I was essentially rejected. And then years later, I met Marlena Malice, and she was like,
Oh,
"Why did you never sing for the Juilliard School?" And I said, "Well, actually, I did, and I was rejected." She said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe how many mistakes essentially we have made over the years in people." I remember people from the year that I didn't get accepted, and so, when you think about it now, how things are fast forwarded, I believe that people truly take the paths they were, destined to take. So it wasn't meant for you to go to Juilliard School, but look at the career you're having now. And so you're
thank you.
not alone. I
Wow.
wanted to talk, speaking of the Met, let's talk about Porgy and Bess. Of course, that's
Okay.
your most recent success. Did you have an idea of singing? Did you say, "I want to sing Bess on the Metropolitan Opera stage"? Was that ever in your mind?
No.
It wasn't?
No, no, I never thought I want to sing best at the Met. I thought I just thought I wanted to sing there. Honestly, I mean, the Metropolitan Opera could have hired me to be the third tree from the left next to the soldier, and I would have been happy.
Yeah.
I would have been thrilled. I didn't care what I was singing there. It just so happened, by God's grace, that I got to sing Me, then Musetta, and now Bess. But I think for me, being the best this last season, being one of them has been a great, great honor, because I know that the production has not been done there in about 30 years. So that was a huge, huge honor for me.
I came to see Porgy and Bess at the Met, and I was there sitting in the audience, and I was just a few rows away from Kathleen Battle.
Oh my
And I
God.
was sitting there and looking at her, and just me sitting there in the audience and thinking the tremendous sense of pride that I had. And so I was sitting there and I got emotional because I was looking at the stage and I was thinking of all the wonderful singers, yourself, and of course Eric, and the number, Latanya, so many people that sang so beautifully. But when I was looking at the stage, I wasn't just seeing Porgy and Bess. I was seeing Alberish, and I was seeing Mimi's and Musettas and Lady Macbeths and Mazzetto, people who had done important roles on that stage and other stages of the world. And so I just felt so overwhelmed because there was some incredible singing, and even some of the people who sang some of the smaller roles. Can you talk about being in that atmosphere on that stage, surrounded by such incredible talent in that moment? What did it feel like to you? Can you explain it?
Larry, we're in a this is a pandemic and we're all at home, and I'm trying to take this moment to understand what happened. I'm trying to take this moment to really be thankful for all the things. I feel thankful anyway, but to really be thankful for the jobs that I've had and everything. I have not been able to process fully what Porgy and Bess was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all I can say about the atmosphere of Porgy and Bess, just so much talent.
So much talent,
Oh, and talent like doesn't even describe what was
untapped
happening.
talent too. Yeah.
Exactly. Doesn't even really describe what was happening on the stage. Like I don't know if people know. The people would come and see the show and say, "Oh, it's a good show. It's a good show." And it's like, yeah, it's a good show, but there was something happening on stage every single night, every time,
Every second of that night, right?
every tiny little bit of every rest, every direction from our beautiful director James Robinson, everything from our conductor David Robertson, everything meant something to each person on that stage. Everybody brought a story to Porgy and Bess. And I think that's why it was so successful, because every single person on stage cared about that production and cared about the character that they were portraying in the production.
Such
So
committed. I mean,
very committed,
and
very so.
and I have to say, I was sitting there in the audience, and even in the intermission, and as the show ended, people went crazy for it. And then I went backstage, and it was like a party. There was such a feeling that I cannot explain, that it felt like, in some sense, that so many of our colleagues had arrived, and even for the people who had been doing things on the Metropolitan Opera stage, there was just such a sense of, oh my gosh, this is a huge step forward. Did you feel that way?
Oh yeah, it was great. I mean, I definitely felt slightly overwhelmed by the backstage after the show, because you come off the stage and you're like so sweaty and everything and
Yeah.
exhausted from performing, and then everybody's like, "It was amazing!"
Yes. And everybody and their mother, everybody and their mama,
their moms and their grandmas
had like 20 guests.
Yes.
It was like, we are taking over the Metropolitan Opera. Even the security guards were like, okay, we have a block party in the back of the Metropolitan Opera. It was it was great.
It was. I gotta say, it was fun. And Larry, when I saw you, I kind of lost my mind. I was like, Larry Brownlee. I know that you.
Who is that guy?
You said, let me compliment you. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I was so happy to see you. And I was just, my mom and I have watched so many of your YouTube videos. My mom's
my gosh.
Hey, he's good. He can sing. He can sing. No, Mom, thank you. So.
No, I just, for me, that meant so much. Well, let me ask you a question about Bess. I know a lot of Black women who've been advised not to take on the role of Bess. And the fact that you had already sung Mimi and Musetta at the Met, and of course all these other places, was that the reason why you said, yes, I will take on Bess?
Well, no, actually, the reason I said it was because at the time I didn't have any work. I was hired to do it.
Okay.
I'll be totally honest.
Yeah.
I was Bess was scary to me for a very long time, because when I first was actually in the opera as Clara in 2009, really in the opera, I just saw how, our beautiful Bess for the San Francisco Opera production, I remember her saying, this is not an easy sing. This is not easy. So I was nervous about it, but I was actually cast to sing Bess 4 years before the production happened.
Okay.
Within that time frame, I just kept telling myself, just try to work up to being able to sing it with your voice and not trying to imitate anybody else.
Of course.
And of course, how do you sing like anybody else anyway? You should sing always with the voice that you have. But
absolutely.
I didn't mind taking it on. I don't know. I know Porgy and Bess comes sometimes with and such, but I don't really feel that. I think the stigma is this is just my opinion, but I think that a stigma is what you make it. If you want it to be that, then it will be that for you.
Of course.
That's what I think.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people, they will say, I don't like to see Black people negatively depicted on stage. Right now in 2020 is not one of these things I want to say. Want to see. And so I know a lot of sopranos who say, you know what? I don't want to sing this. But if you think about it, Bess is a tour de force. It really requires a consummate singer, artist, actress. It's not just about the singing. You can't just stand and sing like people in the past have done. And so I'm sure you had to, refine your acting chops. And do you feel like there was a tremendous amount of growth in trying to play a character that was equal the singing to the acting? Sometimes if you're Mimi, it's almost built in.
Right.
You have to be sweet and docile and stuff like that. But Bess is a machine on stage, and it is something that you have to be incredibly believable. Yeah?
What I like is I sang Tosca, my first Tosca, just 1 month before Bess. So I think we closed the show of Tosca on the 22nd or 23rd of July. And then I started rehearsal for Porgy and Bess on August I want to say the 12th or something. So I had about just under a month off of Tosca before I came into singing Bess. I think both ladies are very similar.
Okay.
Because Tosca is demonstrative at moments. Bess is very demonstrative at moments. And both ladies can be impulsive. Both ladies have emotions that are sometimes all over the place, very similar to myself at times. But I think what I like a lot about Bess is that she does have, I mean, Tosca definitely has moments where it's just, okay, stand there and sing. You know, Visidarte, when you get to Visidarte, you screamed all in Act 2. And then by the time you get to Visidarte, it's like, okay, stop screaming. I mean, of course, no one should ever scream, but
Yeah.
stop doing all of this and now sing this beautiful, lyrical, gorgeous aria that everybody knows.
Yes.
You know, but
Yes. What
that's
they're waiting for.
that everybody's waiting for. That's right. Bess doesn't necessarily have, I think she has a couple of those moments, but they don't, it's not the same thing, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. What I liked about this Porgy and Bess especially was we had such a really long period of rehearsal, and that was good for me because
Mm-hmm.
I had the opportunity to really work with the director and really understand what he wanted from me as Bess. I also had the opportunity to understand how Bess reacted and related to other people in Catfish Row. I think when a production is thrown together very quickly at times, that sort of nuance doesn't get to happen. But I was very thankful that we had that time so that I could really understand her as a person, as a woman, you know.
Oh yeah. Well, I thought you did a fantastic job in it. I thought you
Thank
sang
you.
it well. I think I thought you acted it well, but I also thought you looked great in it as well. And this is one of the things I wanted to talk about: makeups and wigs and makeups. Okay, wigs and makeup. Um, do you know? Do you do your own stage makeup from time to time?
If it's terrible, I'll do my own makeup. Yes.
The reason I ask, I have a very funny story. When I went to Indiana University, I was sat down by Martina Arroyo. Okay, she was teaching there when I was a student, and so she said, "Come on, baby, I need to teach you something." So she took me in her studio and she sat me down for 2 hours and she taught me how to do my makeup.
Wow.
She said, "Everyone doesn't know this." And so I've traveled around the world, and I won't mention specific theaters, but I've had horrible makeup in the past. And so I've been fortunate to sing the roles of princes and counts and, in my career. And so it is important that a man of darker complexion looks good on stage. And I remember looking over at one of my colleagues when I was doing the Barber Seville and thinking my makeup was so bad. I looked at his and his was great. And I said to the makeup artist, I said, "I want my makeup to look like his." And she said, "I really don't know how to do a black person's makeup." And so this was a few years back, and I'm much older than you are. You're young, I'm old. But, it was one of these things I had to learn. So it's not the same as doing everyday makeup that some people use. But what do you think about that aspect of it as a black person needing to know how to make sure that you're looking the role you're playing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm very fortunate with makeup because I do know how to do my own makeup. I prefer not to do my makeup just because I think for stage it's good to have someone who really knows what they're doing and how you can look your best. Thankfully, at the Metropolitan Opera, I haven't had that problem.
Yeah, they do a great job.
They do a fantastic job on makeup. I mean, I've always been happy with how I've looked at the Met. Like you said, there are some theaters that are not as well versed in.
We won't mention them.
No, of course not. I would never do that.
But do
Um,
you give input when you feel that it's not up to par?
well, let's
When you
put it
feel
this way.
like it's not done well?
I was singing somewhere a couple of years ago, and I took a picture of my face, and I sent the picture to my mother, and I said, "Mom," and she called me, and I was called to go to the stage in like 10 minutes. And she called me and she said, "Angel, what is on your face?" And I said, "This is how they did my makeup. This is how I'm supposed to go on stage." And she said, "Don't go on stage like that. You look like a clown." Because I
Oh
did.
my gosh.
I looked like a scary version of it, a scarier version of it. And and I understand the person was trying to make me look very glamorous, but I looked like, maybe Bozo the clown or something. And so my mom said it's just a little too much, and it wasn't the right colors and such. And she said, "Do you have your makeup? Do your makeup over." So that's what I did, uh,
Right.
with her on the phone, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that there are places where people aren't going to have my colors. I wear with MAC, I wear NW45 and NW50,
So
which
you know.
yes, which are just two colors shy of the darkest shade of brown with MAC makeup.
But
So
is that Sorry, is that the same at that's not your everyday walking around foundation, or is it? Or
Well,
do you use the
it
same?
sort of depends on what's going on. I mean, if I want to highlight something for the stage, I'll use NW40. For my just for every day, like even right now, I have on NW45. But these are things that you learn
Over time.
over time and as you go along. I mean, I would definitely suggest not just for a Black singer, or African American singer, or African singer. I would say for anybody in the field, you don't know what you're going to get when somebody's doing your makeup. So it is a good idea to take your own makeup with you. But I mean, and of course, learn how to speak to your makeup artist, because everyone's not trying to make, if they don't do your makeup the way you want it, they're not trying to, maybe not trying to make
Yeah.
you look.
They're not trying to sabotage
No,
you.
they're
They're
not trying
just they
to
just don't know.
you. But
Well,
it's
you
something
know this.
we don't know, but it's good to know how to communicate that to someone in a kind way, not
Yeah.
not to be rude.
And the thing is, I found out that when I have had to say this to people, they're actually happy to know.
Yes.
When I talked to this young lady, she said, I don't have the experience, but I want to learn. And so I said, you know what? When I come next week, because it was, I won't say the place again. When I come next week before, let's sit down for about 2 hours and just do my makeup. Then we can wipe it off and then you can do it again. And she was like, that is a great idea because it will
Oh,
help me. And she just didn't have the experience. And so I think people who work in the theater want to do the best job they can sometimes because we have this, and it was, again, I'm trying not to say the place. They didn't have a large, revolving door of people of color. Let me ask you this: the same thing with wigs,
yeah.
because I have had some of the worst wigs ever. Okay, I remember looking like the Incredible Hulk or or the Supremes. I'm not even kidding. I was like, you cannot, you can't. But, it prompted me to get my own wigs. And so we hear about the singers of the past who used to travel with their trunks of their goodies so they
Yeah,
would make sure. But is it one of these things too that you also have to be careful? We have to, as Black people, have to be careful about what they put on our heads as well. Yeah.
for sure. I mean, there's occasionally there are those productions where they're just like, okay, we'll use your hair. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind sharing this. I wear wigs, I wear weaves. I change my hair quite often. I usually travel with wigs, and I travel with my hair products, and I travel with hair pieces. I
You
travel,
have to.
and you have to. And I think it's just, but again, I don't think that's just for darker skinned people. I think that's for everybody, because I learned this when I was in pageants. One of the things I learned was how you want to look.
There you go.
You know how you want to look. So, if you know how you want to look, don't get mad because you show up and you don't have what you would normally have. Take what
Right.
you want with you and
Exactly.
have a dialogue about that. But I mean, thankfully, I only have a couple of horror stories about hair.
Yeah.
Hair is I mean, I'll say as a Black woman, as a dark Black woman, I find that for me, I have definitely had my fair share of hair horror stories when I was younger, being
Mm-hmm.
teased and things like that from when I was younger. But I find that actually all of that really now today, I feel that empowers me because I can change my look so easily. And I don't always have to wear my hair this way if I don't want to. I can
Right.
change it however I want. And that's a luxury, and there are people who, I don't know if this is a tangent, maybe it is a little bit, but as an entertainer in our profession, that should be something that's celebrated
Absolutely.
because we as a group of people who are entertainers, that is what we do. We entertain people. So why not entertain people with your hair and your makeup?
You better work it.
You know
Work.
what I mean?
Okay? Work. But also costumes. When you think about costumes and lighting, the lights were not necessarily made with us in mind.
No.
Or the costumes. It's like he can't wear that color of green because he will look like a little frog on stage. And so, how vocal are you now? I know I'm being silly. How vocal are you now? And when did you come to the point where you could realize that you didn't have to just accept anything that they pushed in front of you, where you could say, no, I think I should have this instead? Because people respect Angel Blue and they will say, we want her to be happy. Yes?
Yeah, I think I've always been pretty vocal about things when I think that it's not going to work for me. But I think it matters how we're vocal. I think, I think it matters what we say. Pardon. I got to get my mom's words right. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
So if you say, you don't light a black girl like this, what are you doing? Why would you put that light on me? Okay, well, they're probably not going to change the light. They're probably not going to change it. I'm just saying they're probably not going to change the light. However, if you go, hey, do you mind if you pull whoever it is, the director or the lighting designer away from, everybody else and say, can we just have a quick talk after this section? And then you go and you say, hey, I just had a quick question about the lighting. Do you mind if we change it here? Because I feel it's really dark. I saw the pictures and it looks really dark here, blah, 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 blah. I think that it matters how we say it. I started doing that, I have to be honest, when I was in college. And I think that it stayed with me. But I would say that it really matters how you're communicating with other people. Communication is like the biggest thing ever, And so if something is said with an attitude, or an attitude of entitlement or an attitude of arrogance, then more than likely people are not going to be willing to work with someone. It doesn't matter the color of the person's skin, or if they're famous or not. It's just how we treat one another. But I've definitely always been the kind of person to say something if something is bothering me.
Well, we should. And I think people respect us. And I agree. My dad said the same thing. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And
right.
That's one of the things that I learned, that, if you're trying to, the way you voice something, you have to think about the way people will take it in.
Right.
Of course, as an artist of color, as a black man, I want people to respect me, and I don't want people to try to run over me. But I also realize that I want people to respect me in the way that I deserve to be respected. But if you give respect, I think people should in return give you respect. And so I wanted to ask you,
don't give you respect back. That's not your problem. That's theirs.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Theirs.
Adam, can you bring me my charger, please?
Okay.
It's my husband. I forgot to hook up my camera, and it's
her better half. There you go. And I wanted to comment to the people. I believe people are commenting, and I just can't see the comments. Thank you. If you see the comments, I'm sure if people are asking questions, we can definitely get to some of their questions as well, because I'm not getting a chance to see them. And
Larry, somebody says, Larry, did you bring your own boots?
I used to bring my own boots because I am 5 foot nothing tall.
Larry, how tall are you?
I am like 5'5". Okay, I claim it.
Together. We need to sing together. I'm 5'11". I'm like Thanos.
I've dated people 5'11". Okay, so I'm not scared. Okay, don't get it twisted. I'm not scared. My wife is 5'8". So so she's not short either. So, but I'm not scared of I'm good. Okay, no, but
that's funny.
But here's what I wanted to say. I used to take my boots, and I don't do that anymore. And I felt at a certain point that I was trying to be accepted as the role, and probably thinking they're not going to believe that a 5'5" black guy with no hair usually, because I didn't always wear a wig, is the count or the prince of something. So I said, let me get an inch taller. That will make it more believable. It wasn't that. So I've kind of abandoned that, and I don't really care, because I feel like we have to be good enough actors to kind of transport people into this realm of disbelief. So if someone wants me to, if it makes sense for, even one of my colleagues, I'll definitely do it, to make them feel more comfortable, because the love scenes might actually be easier if we're closer, an inch closer to the same height. So I don't have a problem doing it. Here's a question. Have you ever had a tenor that asked you not to wear high heels?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Really? What'd you do?
I actually had a tenor when I was singing with someone in 2011. This is just my career only started 2 years before that. And I was very green with everything. Mm-hmm. And we were on stage singing, and after we finished the rehearsal, his publicist came up to me and said, Angel, that was beautiful. That was so beautiful. And she handed me $50, and she said, there's a shoe store down the street. Can you go buy some flats? Thankfully, my mom was with me, because it was just like this to me. I didn't get it. And my mom was like, oh, she doesn't want you to be taller than him. And I said, oh, is that really what that was for? And my mom goes, give her that 50 back. You don't need it for So I ended up giving it back to her. I did go buy flats, but that was definitely the first time that had happened to me, and then it happened a couple of other times, but it wasn't as bad because we were in a performance and the director
Right. The
easily.
director asked you, yeah.
But do you want me to read any of the questions?
Sure. Why don't you read some of the questions? Yeah.
Wow, that's very so. This person, there's one question that says, are contracts similar to that of movie stars? And another question says, what's the average pay for the lead role in an opera? There is another question just under it from Keebler Holly that says, how do you all feel about non-Black singers darkening their skin for roles?
Which one of those questions would you like to tackle?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I have friends who do movies, and no, the fees are not the same.
No,
The
sadly.
No, the contracts are not the same. What's the average pay for a lead role in an opera? I don't actually know because it's sort of changing all of the
It
time.
it depends. I'll answer it quickly. I mean, it depends on how long you've been in the business. It depends on where it is. There's a big range that you can't really nail it down. There are some people who are really getting paid, okay, and then there are some people who are doing okay. So it's just so much. Yeah, it's hard to answer that question. But
Yes. The question about the non-Black singers darkening their skin for roles. Larry, do you want to answer that?
well, gosh,
I have an idea, but I would like to get my thoughts together just a little bit better.
okay. Non-black singers darkening themselves for roles. What do you mean? To play the role of Othello? Um, that's a hard one to answer because I feel like the right voice should be singing the right role. There are a lot of singers who can sing Othello that are not given the roles, and that's another problem. And so when you open the door to allow the people who are talented enough to be able to sing them and not just take anyone and say, oh, we'll just put makeup on this guy who is not at all, or then rather consider someone who potentially could sing it and he doesn't need any apologies. He actually can sing the role, open it up so everyone's in the discussion. I feel like there are roles that I wasn't meant to sing. I feel that Mozart and Rossini and Donizetti probably didn't write a role with the idea of a black guy in mind. So I think that my voice should dictate that I should be singing these roles, and so I hope that's the main thing. If it's done with thoughtfulness and not trying to be offensive in any way or disregard or disrespectful, I'm okay with it. But there is a discussion that needs to be had. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I thought I had an answer, but I don't really. I guess I agree that if you can sing the role, then sing it.
Yeah.
I was asked to do a role recently, actually, where I would have to have my entire face painted white, and I imagine that the question would be the same. Is it wrong that Angel would do that to her face to be able to sing the role? I don't know. I really don't. I
But
suppose.
but were you doing it to look Caucasian or to look more white than black?
No, no. It was
Okay.
because that is how the makeup was worn at the time,
Right.
and and I just think that I don't know. I think that's one of those things where everybody has to live with their own conviction. Maybe if you feel that that's something that's wrong, then maybe don't do it.
Right.
And if you feel that somebody else is doing it and that is wrong, then maybe don't support the opera. Maybe don't go see that show. I'm not sure. I really don't.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I don't know because I've sung Violetta. She's
Mm-hmm.
not black. I've sung Mimi. She's not black. Tosca's
Yeah.
not black. Liu's not black. Liu's, I think she's Chinese. No.
Right.
Um.
And how many Madame Butterflies are really young 16-year-old Asian looking women?
Yes. So I mean, I don't really know how to answer that question in a way that's diplomatic, I suppose. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that I would say that everybody would have to live with and up to what their own convictions are. Larry, there's a question here. I'm not totally not trying to take over your
No,
show.
no, no. It's great. I mean, I'm glad you can. I'm actually got my phone. Thank you. I just got my
Oh,
phone, and
good.
I'm actually looking now at some of the
Can you
colleagues.
see?
But I want to pay attention to you, Angel. That's the reason why I'm not looking at my phone. But let me ask you this question, and then we'll get to another question. Let's talk about the term of being a role model. Okay,
Oh,
Charles Barkley, he said he never grew up wanting to be a role model, but just by being successful, you will become someone's role model. What do you think about that, being a role model? I'm sure there are young singers that have come up to you, young sopranos, young tenors, but specifically young black sopranos have come up to you and they believe that they can be successful because they've seen you. What do you think about being a role model in that respect?
I think that's a blessing. I think it's a blessing to be a role model. If somebody says, I look up to you and I want to be like you, or I feel like I can do this because I see, I mean, that's what happened to me. I think that I can sing opera because of Leontine Price, because of Jesse Norman, because of, I mean, we can even come even closer. I looked up to Denise. I still look up to Denise Graves and to Sheena Vaughn and, Grace Bumbry, all of these women who've been opera singers before me. I see them and I think I want to do that too. It goes back to the thing when I was 4 years old. I want to be like the woman in the light. And if the woman in the light looks like me, if she looks like me, that's very encouraging, then
Right.
that means that's something I think is, I guess I suppose I look at being a role model. If I'm that to other people, then I just hope that I would encourage them in any way that I can.
Well,
And
that's a question. What is so you being the accomplished singer you are today? What is the advice that you would go back to a 21-year-old Angel Blue
oh,
that is just starting her studies? What type of information would you give her to encourage her or to try to help her navigate better this road that we're on?
ah,
Is that a
on
hard question?
no, I would, well, what I would tell myself at 21 years old, I would tell myself to spend as much time with my dad as I could because he died when I was 23. And I would tell myself to listen to the people around me who are trying to guide me on this path and not to think that everybody's trying to hurt my feelings or put me down. And so I was really like offended by everything when I was younger. Um, and I would probably just tell myself to take it seriously. I didn't start really getting serious about opera until I moved to Europe
Mm-hmm.
when I was 25, 26. And so I would just tell her that I would tell her that she's doing a good job, but that she really does need to take it seriously, take the art seriously, take her talent
Mm-hmm.
seriously.
One of the things my father told me is to be a better listener
Yeah.
than a responder. By that, I mean, he
Beautiful.
said there are a lot of people that have information for you, and you need to be a filter rather than being someone that just immediately rejects everything you hear. Some people, they think they know it at 19 years old, and you can't tell them anything. And even if you have a pretty good head on your shoulders, he told me, be a filter. What you don't want, let it go out the other side. But don't be. It was, I guess, even biblical. Be slow to quick. Quick to listen, but slow to speak. And it was one of those things. It was a lesson for me because I felt like there were people who offered things that was absolutely helpful for me,
Hmm.
and there were some things that people gave me where I wasn't even in the place to understand it, but later on it was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I listen to them when they gave me this information? Because I was too, not full of myself, but I just wasn't in the place to really accept it. Do you feel that that is something that you think about as well, that just kind of taking the information and being a student? Or did
Yeah,
you
I
think
think I'm
that?
gonna. Do I think that now, or did
Or
I
did
think
you
that?
think that, that you really wanted to be a student of the game?
I don't think I wanted to be a student of the game until I was about 25, 26.
And you wish you had done
Um,
that earlier, you say?
I would have loved to have done it earlier. I think I would have. Well, had I done it earlier, my journey would be different.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I've only really been, I would say, full throttle, 100% into the game, as we,
Mm-hmm.
for the last 12, 13 years, has made my journey what it is.
Of
But I do
course.
think it's very important to always be a student. My dad would always tell me, don't get tired of learning. You don't ever want to get tired of learning. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel that I'm tired of learning, and there's a lot to learn. And when I learn stuff, I always think, gosh, there's so much that I don't know. There's so much that I don't know. Then I kind of have to help myself out because then I'll start to feel like I'm stupid or like I'm crazy because I don't know.
Well,
But
we should always continue to learn. And so, I mean, this whole Facebook Live series is really to try to give information. And I always tell people when I do master classes, I'm no master, but I'm just a student of singing. I'm a student of life. I'm a student of this business. when I look at people that I've been in the career for 35, 40 years who are still active, I realize that those people have seen things that I haven't seen. And so we
Yeah.
have to continue to always be a student. Let me change gears real quick, and then we'll get to one more question from them. Um, would you consider yourself a diva? Now, before you respond, the definition of a diva is a distinguished female singer. So, would you consider yourself a diva?
The definition of a diva is a distinguished female singer.
Yes.
Well, what does distinguished mean? Does that actually,
Someone who's had success, someone who's represented herself well in under duress, perhaps, or under a difficult situation, who's performed perhaps for large numbers of people to great acclaim, who has has sung in over 35 countries of the world, all those things, the things that you've accomplished. And I think we take terms sometimes and put the negative light on them. But I think a true diva, because when we look back in the past at people like Leontine and Jesse and all these other people that we revere, we call them the great divas, the last great diva. Do you aspire to be one of the great divas in the positive sense?
yes, I aspire. I'm just myself. I'm just Angel. I'm not trying to be anybody else.
Exactly. But
So,
don't you think that people are always trying to look for the next Leontine, the next Jesse Norman, the next Kathleen Battle?
well, my opinion of those ladies is so high. The next Leontine Price is really everybody who's in the game.
Right.
The Jesse Norman is all of us. The next Simon Estes is all of us. But people are constantly looking for something to look at and find success in or whatever. But I don't know, Larry. Am I a diva by that definition? Would I aspire to that? I just aspire to be the best that I can be. I want to aspire to be the best Angel Blue that I can be. I want to help people. I want to encourage people. I want people to know that if a girl from Apple Valley, California can become an opera singer and sing all over the world and do beauty pageants and find happiness in
And have great success doing them.
and have great thank you and have great success doing it, by God's grace, I am where I am and I'm thankful for that. And I just pray that I can continue to do that. That's all.
Oh, that's great. I know we have just a couple more minutes because I definitely don't want to keep you, but would you like to respond to one of the questions down there? And again, I thank you all for following along. I promise you next week I will get this figured out so I'll be able to see the comments and charge it to my head and not my heart, okay? As they say in church. Okay. Did you want to bring up one of the questions?
Yes, do you have them on your
Let's see. I can't really tap into them that quickly, but
okay, so
let's see.
um
I mean,
this
I have other questions too.
okay, well then this is great. I'm trying to find someone did ask me earlier about grad school.
Okay.
If you have to go to grad school to be successful, I would say I would. It depends on who you are, I suppose, and what you're looking for. But for me, I had to go to grad school. I needed those years
Mm-hmm.
to grow up. I was very immature, and I needed. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm mature now, but I definitely needed that time to not just get my voice together, but also to get my mind together. So grad school is. I don't think you can go wrong with grad school. I
Let me
don't.
ask you real quickly. Yeah, grad school. I always tell people to answer that, to tag on to you. More importantly, is the teacher than
Hmm.
the institution. So if you can find someone that you really gel with, that's the main thing. I just want to briefly talk about your experience at La Scala, okay?
Yay!
Singing the Violetta there, and we only have a couple more minutes. Oh my gosh. Singing the Violetta there, how was that experience for you? Did you just think, oh my gosh, I'm singing in the hallowed ground of opera and singing Violetta as, I think everybody talked about it. It was the first time a black woman sang it, yes? What
Yes.
was that experience? Briefly, we only have a couple minutes. What was that like?
Um, Amazing. I had a lot of support from La Scala. I
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of support from if you've ever been to Milan, it's like there's this little area where everybody who goes to the opera just sort of hangs out.
Oh yeah.
And I just had so much support from La Scala and from the restaurants around La Scala, from the people,
Yeah.
from everybody. I felt. I mean, blessed does not describe it. I was incredibly thankful. It was a great experience.
I remember I was in LA when you went on that night, and I remember that Anita Johnson, who I love,
Yes.
she flew
She came.
from LA to Milan because she loves you that much, and she was like, I gotta be there for my girl. So I hope, and I know that made you feel like something, but
Oh,
it
amazing.
was great to have the support in that place where people really, really appreciate opera. Yes.
Yes. It was awesome. It was like a rock concert, like a
Is
rock
that
concert.
one of the memorable experiences that you think you'll have into forever? Like one of the
It was,
debuts of debuts.
I think
Where
that,
does it rank?
yeah, that one and also the Royal Opera House. I sang La Traviata at Covent Garden just like a month before that. Those two experiences, and coupled with my Met debut,
Yeah.
just it was an amazing experience. It felt surreal, like a dream.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're having a dream career, and
Thank
I
you.
am honored that you came and shared your Sunday night with me, where
Thank
you
you.
could be watching Netflix and chilling with your husband and everything else, but you decided to take time out of your busy
Uh
schedule. Oh
oh.
my gosh. Thank you so much, Angel.
Thank you for
Thank
inviting me.
you,
I wish you
of
all the
course.
best success with your show.
Will you tell people? I'm sure they already know, but tell them where to follow you on your social media. Uh,
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Angel Joy Blue on Instagram and on Facebook as well, also on Twitter. So if
yeah,
you have
it's easy to keep the same thing, right?
it's Angel Joy Blue, just my full name, and I appreciate you, Larry. I appreciate everybody who's watching. God bless you all.
Well, you've been a fantastic, tremendous first guest, and so I'm happy to have shared this last hour with you. I wish you well. Thank you so much. Stay safe to everyone watching out there. Forgive me for not being able to really respond to the comments. I'll get that next week. But this has been a lot of fun for me doing it. It'll be fun for me to do it next week. Next week, I have the great honor of having George Shirley, one of my mentors, one of the people that I looked up to, one of the people, like Angel talked about, I looked at and said, maybe I can be an opera singer as a black man because this person has already accomplished it. So I'm happy to have him next week. So please tune in next week for another edition of the Sit Down with LB. Stay safe, everyone.